But no, amazing scene, amazing episode. Before we finish, I want to get into, and it's already been a tad long, but I want to get into the main theory of the day,
Let's hear it.
which is if you've been on the internet, if you've been on Reddit, anywhere on any discussion forums, it's whether it's actually Helly down there, like the show has presented, any Helly in the severed floor, acting, doing her thing, or whether Helena, her outie self, the Helena Egan, actually, basically somehow turned off her chip and is down there pretending to be Helly and spying on the Indies. We don't really know exactly. I guess spying and trying to control
Right.
them, right? So that's the major theory of the day. There's been some supporting stuff on both sides, right? Helly does act kind of weird. She obviously lies right away about what she was doing on the outside. We see other moments. One clear shot, cinematography wise, we see her fumbling with the switch to turn off her computer, whereas we see all the other her other any co-workers basically get the switch first
Something
try.
something similar to,
We see her kind
something
of
similar to that was
go ahead.
she asked if it was if the door to the goat room was the right one, which was like should have been kind of a bit of a red flag to Mark, but it's like okay, that it's something where I could see someone just letting that slide because it's almost whatever.
Yeah, no, there's a couple moments like that. One big clue that people like those sleuths on the internet have pointed out is that in episode 2, when Helena goes down the elevator in the scene where all the Audis are going down to get to work after Mark, kind of forces them to bring them back, her elevator light doesn't,
Well, it's a
or
tone, yeah.
the
It's the
beep,
elevator tone.
it
Yeah, you
turns
don't hear
off.
a boom noise. Yeah.
Yeah, the tone when that normally precedes them turning into their any like basically the server procedure turning on, that doesn't play, right? That's one of the biggest hints
Oh yeah.
that something is up. Now, me personally, my theory is that it is Helly down there. It is Helly, it's not Helena, but that what we have not seen is that there was an off screen between the end of the gala at the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2 where she runs out of the elevator.
Okay. Okay.
There was a missing moment where they turned Helly on and basically threatened her, told her, "Hey, if you don't behave and do what you're told down there, we will hurt you. We will hurt Mark, they saw she cares, so they know she cares about Mark. We'll hurt Irv and
Okay. I can
Bert."
see that.
I'm guessing, or basically her any coworkers. That's my pet theory for what is
Okay.
happening. We could go into, you know, tons of little scenes and details. I think there's a case for both. I think there's a case for both. Lots of people are convinced online 100% of the one way or the other. I do think it's a strange decision if it is meant to be ambiguous and if we're meant to be unsure. I don't think they've explicitly made it. I think there's a case to be made. There's a lot of people watching that, if they're not online, they just assumed it's
Yeah.
Helly, right? Maybe they're acting a bit weird, but they didn't even cross their mind it could be Helena. And there's a couple of glaring flaws with that logic as well, because as far as we know, Helena would not be able to do any work. We're not. It wouldn't be really be clear why she's helping Mark actively search for Miss Casey and showing the picture everywhere. If she was just there to spy and
Right.
stuff, she reacts a lot like Ellie with his schoolgirl crush around Mark, which is exactly how we would expect Helly to act. But obviously, she has the confliction of, oh, hey, I'm the villain of this story. I'm basically the devil who sent us all to hell. And she now knows Mark has a wife and that he's looking for her. So a lot of the complicated feelings. Can't forget that emotionally, these innies are little more than children. They haven't been alive all that long. They haven't had too much exposure to social. They're like teenagers at best. In some ways they look like adults, they act like adults, but in other ways they're like schoolyard children. It's tough to see right now which way they're going with this. Supposedly, episode 4 is gonna be a big, big deal, right? They're already basically teasing, kind of watch it as soon as you can. Don't get on the internet. This is gonna be some
Oh
big
man.
stuff. I think there's a good chance they reveal what happens. Obviously, now that Mark is reintegrated, we're gonna see a bunch of changes. Another one of my big pet theories, and I think we mentioned might have mentioned this last week, is that what they're seeing on the MDR screens, like the numbers they're seeing, is not what an Audi would see. That when they get somebody else down there, where Mark goes down there as his reintegrated self and sees for real that those numbers just scrolling around are going to look something totally different. That's one of my pet
Okay.
theories. We'll see. I think next week is going to be one of the bigger reveals, bigger shocks in the show's run so far. And somehow we're only a third of the way, not even halfway through the
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
A lot of shows would have milked that reveal of Mark getting reintegrated to the season finale. A lot of shows would, bog this down with details and side missions so they could fill out a whole season and not have the reveal to the end. This show's not doing that. This show is moving briskly along. This show is confident in where it's going. You love to see it. And again, favorite show on television. Recommend everybody go out and
Right.
watch it.
Just real quick, just so I can throw in my hat the theory in the whole theory ring too. I also do think that's
Yes.
Helly down there, the real one. She is the descendant. Kieran, I believe she's on a mission to whatever she's supposed to do, whatever she's been sent by her by the higher ups to do. One scene in particular, because you kind of took a lot of the other ones.
So you
Yes,
think it's
yeah,
Helena? You
yeah,
think it's
I
the
think it's
Audi?
Atlanta. I think it's the one that's part of the family
Okay.
that's down there. Who's trying
Okay.
to complete whatever mission that she's been sent to. But again, you've already tipped off other scenes that could do that. But one scene to me that stood out was when she's going back to looking over the game footage, and she sees Helly kiss Mark, and to me, again, she's the bad guy, and the bad guy has to do bad guy stuff throughout the entire season. So she doesn't have time to have these intimate relationships or just have connections in general. She's busy doing what she's been um implored to do. So seeing that, she's so to anybody looking at this, Helena is up at the top of the food chain. She has it all. She's the queen. But then looking at her Audi, but looking at Helly, she sees someone who's she doesn't. They don't see them as people really. Is how is kind of the vibe I get. But she's seeing now that
Yes.
this thing to her is having a much better experience in this structure that her family built, but this thing is having a better experience than she is. So I believe that was a huge catalyst to have her say, "Oh, no, you don't. You're not going to have all these. Like I want that." Almost like jealous. Like you have everything, Elena. Like you can't let Helly just have this. No, she again. It kind of painted her as you know. Definitely, I see her as a villain, but right there, it definitely struck her because it closed in on her eyes to see just how she felt, and she didn't like that. So I definitely saw, along with all the other things that you said, that scene also should be pointed also to why she would even want to do that in the first place, and lends credence to the fact that that is the real Helena down there. But yeah, it was a great scene.
I see. I see where you're coming from. I saw it more as like, again, there's just a lot. There's just some inconsistencies. The biggest one is that from everything we've been told, Helena would not be able to do work. Right? She would not be able to do the Innie's work at all. And it would be I don't see how she would be able to hide that for any length
Right.
of
Well,
time.
just because, I think it's
Right?
like, it's she can't, but I think that's more so she thinks she can, and we're gonna see if she can or not.
No, but no,
But
she
yeah,
can't. Like she cannot. It's been clearly established in the show. And Audi cannot refine the data. They wouldn't
oh,
be able to make any sense of the
okay,
numbers.
I see
That's
what you
why
mean.
they have the seven
Okay,
people.
that's what you mean.
So like no, if she would just be sitting at her desk doing
Mm,
nothing, right? And I don't see how they would like make sense of that long term. On top of that, we've always seen, it's not like this is the only people that work. Lumen needs this work done, whatever it is. It's mysterious and important. And Mark might be the most important one, but he's not the only one. Right. At the beginning of season one, they actually replaced him with three other people. So it's not like Helly's plan was ever even to go down there if Mark had just
right.
cooperated. So it's one of those things where I don't see. why it suddenly stopped mattering that doesn't do work anymore. And I don't see how they wouldn't catch on very quickly that she's not doing work anymore. On top of that, there's just certain scenes, just the way that's acted, like the way she acts around Mark, kind of jealous, kind of cute. The way she acted around the goat people, where she immediately took charge and showed the picture of Miss Casey. Like, why would Helena be trying to spread that? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's one of those things where her motivations in that situation don't make as much sense as just thinking, okay, so Helly's doing this.
Right.
Now, again, there are some inconsistencies. That's why I do think we have not been shown a scene where basically Helly, any Helly basically got tortured and basically got told, or, we're not tortured, but threatened, and basically got told, hey, if you don't play along when we send you down there, things are going to get bad, right? We're going to hurt Mark. We're going to do this. So you better behave.
Mm.
That explains kind of why she's suspicious and shaky and acting all this way, and it still allows her to do some work, so it's not as easy and obvious to expose she's lying. Again, we'll see. There's good supporting evidence for both
Oh yeah.
sides. There's actually really good support. That's the biggest theory. The biggest, there's a lot of people will tell you there's 100% one way, and if you're not, Team Heli or Team Helena, you're an idiot and you're not watching the show right, and you don't know anything about, you have no literary ability, right? You're not media literate or whatever you want to call it. You're not watching the show intelligently. I do think it is odd from the way the rest of the show has been presented. I do think it is odd that it's has been kind of ambiguous. It's strange to me that it's not, clearly one or the other. Like maybe the innies don't know, but it's weird that we as the viewers don't have that made clear
Yeah,
to us.
I agree with the
Again, if
ambiguity.
if I hadn't gone on the if I hadn't gone on the internet and looked this up, I would have just thought Helly was acting weird for other reasons. It would not even occur to me that Helena was capable of going down there, like just not turning her chip off. There's never really shown something that would allow that, so to speak. Um, so again, I think there's room for both, but I do think it's strange, and I hope if they are being ambiguous and coy with it, that they resolve it fairly quickly. I think there's frankly a possibility that they're not being that ambiguous and that people are just reading overly into it. I actually read an interview with the director or the showrunner where he basically said, "Oh yeah, of course Helly lied. She's shaking up about being an Egan. She's ashamed of it, right?" So he was, making it seem obvious that it was Helly down there.
Mm.
Obviously, he could be trying to
Yeah,
throw
I think
off the
he's just trying to
scent.
keep the conversation going as a showrunner. So yeah.
No, but he made it very
Right.
casual, right? It did not be like, "Oh, like, what is your theory on it?" Like he was asked, "Why did Helly lie?" And it's like, "Oh, she lied because she's ashamed." And that was my reading of the first episode too, and my wife's reading, and a lot of other people's reading. Especially people who don't obsessively, look at tiny little scenes and details in shows. Oh, again, it can't be dismissed as a
Right.
possibility,
Right.
right? Like definitively, you can't. I don't think you can just say no. It's definitely Helena. It's obviously meant to be Helena. You're just being dumb because even the showrunner is trying to keep the conversation going. At the worst case, keep the conversation going, or he's just admitting the truth that it's not supposed to be ambiguous and that it's Helly down there. I think that's a possibility as well that people aren't considering. Um, I think
Yeah,
we'll
we'll see,
see.
man.
I hope we see this week. I really do think it'll weaken the show if we're like into episode 7 or 8, and people are still arguing if it's Helena or Heli down there. I think because at some point the problem with doing that is that okay right now, so I think I'm watching a show where Helly is dealing with the repercussions of her outside trip, and she's ashamed of her being an Egan and being the villain, and she's dealing with kind of an existential crisis, right? So if it turns out that's Helena going down there in part to flirt with Mark and to kind of experience a different life, that's an entirely different show from the one I've been watching.
Right.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I would have been thinking, oh, I'm watching Helly's growth and Helly's character arc, and no, I'm actually watching Helena's. I thought she was the villain, and actually, it turns out now I'm supposed to be rooting for her.
Yeah,
Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah.
It's like it's strange to have that
I
ambiguous.
yeah, I believe they'll definitely answer that question. Again, the showrunner, Erickson, he was a huge fan of Lost. Lost is one of those mystery box shows that kind of lingers at. Some people think it did that too much to a detriment. I think this show improves upon stuff like Lost. I also see how it takes from that. So I believe this guy, the showrunner, Mr. Erickson, is going to definitely answer that question and not have that be lingering because he wants to answer it and then get to what's really on the show and where it's supposed to go is what I'm thinking. So I'm excited to see what comes next.
No, absolutely. No, but looks like even on it was Mooney house
Yeah,
divided. We got Kosi on Team Helena, and I'm on Team
we'll see.
Helly. I could see it both ways. I'm not gonna say play definitive. I've given my theories. Coach has given his very reasonable and solid evidence. The kind of stuff you mentioned is the stuff everybody's
Yeah.
mentioned. That suspicion doesn't make sense. That's my theory. That she basically got tortured down there. That she is spying for them and is helping their cause, but not because she wants to.
Mm,
And that explains why she's like, still being able to be flirty with Mark and have a good time because she
right.
can't help it. She just likes being with Mark. She
Oh
just
no, I think
enjoys
she's
it.
playing. Yeah, I think she's
But
playing Mark
again,
and touching his hand and doing all that stuff to, get to what she needs. But we'll see. We'll see. This show's great.
yeah, I will say she's not doing a very good job of actually getting Mark to work. Whatever else you want to say, going around with the goat people is not helping Mark finish his numbers.
Hmm.
So we'll see. I think this week is going to be a big, shocking review in a lot of ways, and I'm very excited to see it.
Yep. But no, this is great, dude.
So yeah,
I loved you're able to tell me. I wanted to hear your theory because you hit me up saying, "Hey, Coach, I have a big theory about episode 3," and I was all ears. So I'm glad you're able to break that down for me and the listeners. So this was fantastic. So I want to thank you Juan EV, and also thank you listeners for listening in on this second episode of what'll be many episodes of Mooney's Mini Bites. You can find us, on all social media platforms from Blue Sky, even on Reddit. You can go and talk to us on some Reddit threads. Talk to us about Severance and other stuff that you want there. Find us on Instagram. You can also find us on YouTube. Just every kind of social media that you can find. You can also look out for our video on our best media of 2024. Juan, you and I had a great episode with Jim and cousin Chris last week, so look out for that episode coming out. But again, until next time, guys, I'm Kosi, and I'm joined always by Wani B, and peace.
adios.